Hey everybody, I'm here with Mr. Jason Shultz, who is a workers' comp attorney right across the street from our office. And we are going to do another community interview. This is someone that we just recently started partnering with to get our patients better medical care and to have really someone on their side when they are injured at work. So we're going to ask him some very frequently asked questions that our patients come to us with, and maybe you have wondered on your own if you're at work and something happens, and sometimes people feel pretty intimidated to even approach workers' comp,
all the
right?
time. Yeah.
You hear the word and it's kind of like hearing the word customer service. Like it just has a negative connotation about it.
Lawyer has a negative connotation.
Lawyer has a negative connotation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird to even be talking to a lawyer because you say, oh, you need to talk to a lawyer.
Right.
And then they say, ooh, okay, well, that's going to cost me, you know? So we just wanted to go through and kind of alleviate some of those negative connotations, those misconceptions, and find out from the horse's mouth, you know, and make it available to everyone out there that is on our social media, that views our website, any patients are from near or far, and let them know that you can contact Jason if you've been injured at work, and he'll let you know if you have a valid workers' comp claim. And we're going to get into it a little bit and see how the process works.
Let's go.
All right. So the first kind of question that comes up is, how do I know if I have a valid claim? We keep hearing these words float around like compensable or non-compensable. If I get hurt at work, how do I know if it's a valid workers' comp claim?
That's a really good question. I mean, most times if you get injured at work, in most situations, you have a workers' compensation case. There are very few situations where that is not the case. However, there are things that people can do, which I'm sure we're going to get into, that you can do to make sure your rights are protected, to assure that you do have a workers' compensation case. The most important thing, the number one thing that you have to do every time you get injured on the job is report it to your employer. It is the most important thing that people, if they do that from the beginning, when you get injured on the job, even if it's minor, if you report the injury right away, that cures a lot of ills that can happen in a case. So bottom line is, if you get injured on the job, no matter what it is, if it happens at work, you're covered. One that's a unique situation that a lot of people don't know is you're covered for a workers' compensation case even before you clock in. So if you are an hourly employee and you go and you clock into your job, you're covered before that happens as long as you are on the premises. So for example, if you have a slip and fall in your parking lot where you park every day, it's snowy, it's icy, we see this all the time in February and January. When this happens and you slip and fall in your parking lot, even before your shift starts, you are covered. So most times you're covered if it happens on the job.
We hear that a lot. If you're not clocked in, you're not covered. So that's actually a misconception.
It is, yes.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. All right. So let's say something does happen. Let's say I'm injured at work, and whether I work for a big company or small company, I wake up and I'm hurting the next day. I want to go to a doctor. So I report it to my boss, and my boss then says, okay, you have to go to this urgent care center, or you have to go see this doctor or that doctor. Whether my boss says that or the workers' comp, their carrier, they say you have to go here. This is where all of our employees go.
Yes.
Is that true? How does that work? You know, because as a person, I might have preferences with where I get medical treatment.
As you should.
How does that work?
So in Maryland, you have the right, an injured worker has the right to treat with any doctor they want to treat with. There are some caveats if you are a union employee and have a union contract. There are some union contracts that require you to at least go to a doctor initially or to check in. If you have an attorney who does a lot of union work or labor work or is an experienced workers' comp attorney, they're going to know those differences to make sure that you know what to do. 99% of the people who come in my office have already gone to a doctor. Okay, so when they go to the doctor or they report their injury to their employer almost automatically sends them to a facility that they have a contract with. It happens all the time. So usually when people come to me, they've already seen one physician, which is never a problem. Usually you go one time, it's not a big deal. It's more of a big deal when you don't go to the doctor. When you get injured on the job, you should report it, as I said earlier, and seek medical treatment right away.
Okay.
Go to a doctor, get a history of it, make sure that doctor has a full history of how you were injured and how you were feeling. If you have reporting to your employer and you've seen a doctor right away, again, you're in a really good position. It puts us in a good position to be able to protect your rights. After people typically do that, you should absolutely treat with a doctor of your choice. Maryland's very clear on that. It's very unique. It's a wonderful right we have in the state that injured workers can treat with a doctor of their choice. And the number of people that come in here and think they've got to treat with a doctor that their employer sent them to is numerous. It happens every day. So we got to make sure that we're getting you into a doctor of your choice, a physician of your choice, a chiropractor of your choice, that you're getting the treatment that you deserve and you have a right to, because ultimately you want to make sure you have a physician, a chiropractor that's looking out for you.
Right.
That their focus is not on keeping that contract with the employer. Their focus is on getting you better. And the ultimate goal is we want to get people back to work.
Right. And, just from our perspective as chiropractors, we see that all the time where we'll have a patient come in and start treatment under workers' comp, and then they've been bullied by the insurance company, and basically they threaten to not pay the claims. And then the patient feels like they have to go to that other facility and maybe get, injections or just painkillers, and and they even say things like, "You're not that injured. You need to go back to work." And then they feel like they can't continue seeing us. And as much as we tell patients, you can continue seeing us, we will work with you. They can't do that. That's actually illegal, because they're bullying you. So in the state of Maryland, you have the right to choose. So we just want to clear that up.
Absolutely.
That's great. So let's talk about, why would I need a lawyer? I mean, let's say I've reported it to my employer. They give me a claim number. I go to my doctor. I'm going to assume that my bills are going to be paid because I have a valid workers' comp claim. I've been injured. I'm going to the doctor of my choice. Why would I need to hire you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, most people think when they talk to an insurance adjuster, they may even have a claim number that they've gotten through the insurance company that their employer has to handle their workers' compensation cases. They may even have that. They think, I've got a workers' comp case. You do not have a workers' compensation case in Maryland unless you file a claim with the Maryland Workers' Compensation Commission. Okay? Now, why do that? The reason you sort of stated it in your previous sort of question, which is the rights that you have under the law, the right to treat with a doctor of your choice, the right to be paid while you're off work under a doctor's care, the right to be compensated for any permanent problems that you have after treatment's ended, and ultimately the number one right you have in Maryland is once you have a workers' compensation claim through the Maryland Commission, you have the right to fight for medical treatment for the rest of your life. You have none of those rights, not one of those rights, unless you file a claim with the Maryland Workers' Comp Commission.
And that's what the attorney will do for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's where we come in. And that's where we come in to make sure that your rights are protected. If you don't do that, you have an internal claim with an adjuster. That adjuster has complete control over everything. They can say no. They can say no to you.
And they know.
They know.
They know if you have an attorney or not, because there'll be a letter of representation
Absolutely.
on file or not. So if you don't have an attorney, they know what they can push and bully and get away with, because they know your rights are not protected. You haven't filed. Because I don't know about you guys out there, but I wouldn't know, just as a layman, how to go on and file my own claim with the Workers' Comp Commission. I mean, that's kind of crazy. Who does that? Unless you have a background in law. So, so now, here's the other problem. How do you get paid? The average person who's been injured at work can't afford, hundreds of dollars an hour for an attorney. So they might really hesitate to even consult with you.
Understandably so.
But it's not like that for this type of attorney.
No, it's
so
not.
Tell us, how does it work if a person comes into your office?
It's a completely understandable concern. I'm calling a lawyer. How do I pay them? Are they billing me by the minute? Every email that I send them, I'm going to have to send them a check for that. It doesn't work that way in Maryland. Workers' comp is a contingency-based fee agreement. So the attorney's fee is contingent on you, the injured worker, getting compensated at the end of your case. Okay, and the odds of you getting compensated at the end of your case without an attorney are pretty much 0%. Okay, so there's no upfront cost, there's no hourly cost, there's no minute per minute cost. The workers' compensation fees in Maryland are capped at 20% by state law, and the commissioners are the ones that assign the attorney's fee. So I don't even choose it. It's the commissioners in Maryland that assign the attorney's fee based on what we fight to get you, the injured worker.
So it sounds like a win-win.
Yes.
Because if I don't get an attorney and I just have this claim, and even if my bills get paid, well, that's great. But at the end of the day, I had this injury. I might have had time off work. I might not have got compensated. I might have had to use vacation or disability insurance and not been compensated for my time off work. And at the end, I lose. I have no settlement money, no money to walk away with for the pain and suffering I went through. If I use an attorney, I don't have to pay them up front, and the workers' comp commission will assign you a fee that the insurance company will pay when you settle the case, assuming you win.
Yes, it comes out of the injured workers award at the end.
Okay, and if you don't win the case, we've seen this go bad.
Yeah.
So there's always a chance that you don't win a case.
Yes.
Just because you hire an attorney doesn't make it a shoo-in, right? Because the attorney now you're putting yourself on the line.
Correct.
You might do all this work and then you get no settlement and they get no payout. What then? So what is the risk to the patient? Do they if they have an attorney and they lose the case for some reason, unfortunately, we've seen things like where employers have gone in and changed time cards. They've put other employees on the stand threatening their jobs.
Yes.
So people are really, really hesitant to talk about this because there are some really unethical things going on. Unfortunately, because there's also some people out there that will fake injuries and try to leech the system. So then the people that are validly injured have to suffer, or can sometimes injustice can happen to them. So what happens if we lose the case? Do they just get stuck with all the medical bills? People might be concerned about that as well.
Yeah, if for some reason that the case doesn't go well and at the end of it we're not successful, there's still no attorney's fee. Okay, right. So you don't owe money because we cannot get an attorney's fee unless we get something from you through the commission. So if we're not successful, you don't get a bill from us for time spent. That's just the way that the system works. In terms of medical care, health insurance, would pick it up. They're secondary in that situation. And typically, if we go to court and we have not been successful in the case, that means that nothing's been approved all the way up to that point. So it's not like, someone's getting compensated up to that point and then we go to court to lose. Typically, that means that from the beginning, the insurance company fought the case and we go to court and aren't successful. Doesn't happen a whole lot, fortunately. Right. It doesn't happen. It's pretty rare. It's something that any good workers' compensation attorney would be able to identify up front with the injured worker, something that I'm very pride myself in. I want to be very upfront and direct with people that are sitting in my office. So if I feel like there are some challenges with a case, you're going to know it from me. I don't want you to have any surprises if that's possible. So it's important. I wouldn't want that. If I were on the other side of the table, I'd want to know the truth.
Yeah, and that's why we like working with Jason too, because not only is it so convenient for our patients because we're right across the street, but he also only does workers' comp. So he has a very methodical way, and it's like someone who could do a very good wine tasting.
Yeah, okay.
Like you can tell the year and the type and all that because...
Is that part of the interview too?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
Right after you turn the camera off.
Okay, great.
So when someone who specializes in one thing, it's a lot easier to tell up front if your case is going to be a good case. So another question we get a lot is, well, why can't I just go through my health insurance?
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing to do, in my opinion. One, you should not be spending,
money.
You're paying co-pays for therapy and chiropractic visits. You should not be spending your own money for treatment from an injury that happened at work. That's number one. Number two, what if down the road at some point your health insurance company finds out that this is a work-related injury? They could retract all the payments from Carney Chiropractic or from any other facility, and then you could get billed directly for the whole boat. There's no reason that you should do it. This whole system exists for you to be able to fight to get treatment under the law. So you should not be doing that.
Right. And the other thing I want to note with health insurance, because we have patients that do that, they always say, just let me bill my health insurance. I don't want to go through workers' comp. Well, that's fine, because as your chiropractor, we'll do whatever the patient tells us to do. But we want to always let them know the risks. Right. And the other reason you wouldn't want to do it, because there is no copay with workers' comp, And most people nowadays have high deductibles, high copays, but there are also limitations on your chiropractic care and your physical therapy. You might get 20 visits, 30 visits a year. So if you have this injury in the first half of the year, and then later on you have another injury that's not work-related, and you've used all your health insurance, you're on your own. You have to pay cash. Whereas if you had gone through workers' comps and had no copay, you would have all of those 20 or 30 visits available to you for when you injure another body part later. And it happens all the time. We just want to let you know this happens all the time. So we're not going to force anyone's hand, but we just want you guys to have all the information you need to make an informed decision. All right. So one last question I just want to hit on. Can I get fired, or will my boss retaliate? Will my company that I work for know and be angry with me and treat me differently if I file this workers? It's different in every company. I understand. Like there's some big companies that have a lot of work comp claim. They're very good about it.
Yes.
But let's say I work for a smaller company and it's, say, an electrical firm or some type of physical job, and I get injured and they don't have a lot of work comp claim.
Right.
Could I get fired, and what would happen then? What happens with my job?
In Maryland, you cannot get fired for filing a workers' compensation claim. Okay. The most important thing you touched on this, if it's a small business, sometimes people feel a different kind of obligation to that small business. However, that small business carries workers' comp insurance.
Right.
Okay?
Now, will it affect their rates?
It could, I don't know, but what you should be focused on is how is it going to affect your getting better?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's nice for people to want to think about their employer, and some people have really good employers who treat them well, and that's a great thing. But if you get injured at work, your health is more important.
Right.
If you can guarantee that employer is going to take care of you for the rest of your life with that injury, that's a risk to take, okay? But they have insurance. We have insurance. To drive a car in Maryland, you have to have insurance. That's why we have it.
Right.
So, a good employer, if the employer is that good and cares about you that much, they are not going to give you a hard time about filing a workers' compensation case. They're going to support you.
Yeah, I would think that most employers, especially if you work in a physical job and you're really injured, would want you to get better so that would lengthen the term of your employment. Overall, because if you ignore the injury or if you only treat it halfway because of your limitations of your health insurance, then the next year or later that year, you might end up having to switch careers altogether, which we've also seen happen. Yeah. So I think the big picture here is that a lot of people also think work comp injury also involves a lot of surgery, permanent or partial disability, where they, it's just this, if in order for it to be work comp, it has to be like this huge problem. But we have seen a lot of different things. We've seen things where I was sitting at my desk and I bent over and all of a sudden my back went out.
Yeah.
You're on the clock. It may or may not be compensable, but you at least need to report it. If you're working, and even if it's a small sprain or strain, if you bump your head, if you slip and fall on the ice, if there's any repercussions of pain afterward, that's your body's way of talking to you. And if you're going to get it addressed, which you should, you want to talk to an attorney to see if this is valid with workers' comp. Should I file this? But the first thing you should always do is tell your employer.
Yes.
Before you go to a doctor, before you do anything, just at least let your employer know, because there are protocols that they have to do to report it, to their insurance company. Even if it ends up being a report only and there's no injuries reported, you still want to report it to your employer first. So I hope this clears up some of the things. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate. Okay, 3 things. Report your injury right away. Seek medical treatment right away. Give your doctor, physician, chiropractor a good history. And consult a lawyer. That's what we're here for. Don't spend your time searching on the internet to find out whether you have a workers' compensation case.
Right.
It costs nothing to call someone and to go over it with them. So why not take the 5 minutes to do that?
Agreed.
And also, I think what's really good, if you find a good workers' compensation attorney, they're going to be very focused on you getting into treatment with providers like Carney Chiropractic, who understand, number one, workers' comp, and understand the importance of documentation and putting history in a report. And number 3, our partners. So if there's an issue, they can call the attorney and say, hey, we have a question about this, or there's a question about what the injured worker said. It's nice to have a team that's working for you to get you better. So those are a few things that I would just remind people to do if they get injured on the job.
And just to clarify, because we mentioned about contracts with providers, with the insurance companies, Jason's office and our office, we're referral partners. We do not give or receive any type of financial or monetary compensation or any type of kickback. We are just referring partners, and we're just trying to increase our network and help our patients.
And I just want my clients to get good care.
Yeah.
So that's why.
And anyone who's been to our office knows that that's going to happen with Dr. Loomis, because he is the best of the best. And I might be biased, but he is the best.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. You can also message us at carneychiro@gmail.com. And you want to shoot out your email there too?
My email is jason@schultzlegal.com. That's SHULTZ legal.com. My website is...
We'll post that below in the comments as well.
Yep.
In the description of the video. So you can email us, you can call us. We'll put both of our websites in here as well.
Yeah.
And we can help get you started with getting back on the right path with regards to your medical treatment.
Great.
All right. Thanks a lot.